I think there's this misconception that if I take a leap, whether it's to another company or to be a founder, I think it's the same.
Yeah.
It's like I'm more comfortable with what I know than the devil I don't, right? And so what I say to people is, number one, you have to identify that you have the fear. We all have it. If people tell you they don't have fear when they're making a transition, they're lying to you. There's no ways. Oh, there's always fear. There's always emotion. So how do we make it more objective? And we break it down and look at things from what benefits does it bring me? What am I doing now? And how does that work? What's my list of prioritization? And it takes it out of that emotional space and really helps make the decision of, is this the next right move, right? Does not have to be my ultimate move.
Yeah, that's so good.
Will it benefit me next?
Yeah. Well, welcome back to Whiskey is for Closers. This is the podcast by Alteza where we sit down with bold founders who have built businesses from scratch. Now they're trying to figure out, how do we scale beyond ourselves? My name is Craig, and with me are my co-hosts Drew Epperson and our founder, Steve Caton. And if you're new here, this is the show where we get into real stuff, unfiltered stories behind what it actually takes to grow a startup from scrappy to scalable. Today's episode, we have not one, but two incredible founders joining us, Anne and April, the duo behind Forthright People. Forthright is a brand strategy consultancy built on the radical idea that being direct actually works. Imagine that. These two didn't just take the traditional path to entrepreneurship, they zigged when others zagged and built something real, and maybe they learned a thing or two along the way about selling strategy, scaling a partnership, and staying true to who you are. We're going to talk about the non-traditional career pivots, the messy middle of co-founder dynamics, and what it takes to sell something as intangible as strategy. And yes, there's probably some wine involved. So grab your glasses, let's settle in and get into it. Anne, April, welcome to Whiskey is for Closers.
Woohoo!
So here is the real question. What are we drinking? Is it wine? Is it whiskey? What are we drinking? Drew, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been excited about this one because I was recently introduced to a Nashville distillery. And you guys, I think I'm going to get this tattooed on me, the name of this company, the name of this particular bourbon. You ready for it? It's called King Snake.
What? Why would you want that tattooed on you?
Why would I not want that tattooed on me? That's the real question, guys. And I will say at 90%
that is
proof.
a terrible idea.
It is so terrible, and yet I'm willing to throw it out there as an option. So cheers to King Snake.
And as the brander, I have to ask, are you going to have it look just like the logo on that bottle?
Listen, it's going to be right next to Roy Orbison, and I'm telling you right now, there's going to be something special that happens here, so thank you for that.
Steve, you got to follow that.
Why? Next time I'm going first, man. That's ridiculous. I've got no tattoos in my future. I promise
so
you
funny.
that. Okay, so, people, now that they, hear me talk about whiskey a lot, see the LinkedIn profile, they ask me all the time, what's my go-to whiskey? And I've had a hard time kind of nailing that down. Like, what is my go-to? And so this is what I've decided is my go-to. This is my go-to whiskey, which is the Breckenridge PX cask finished whiskey.
Uh-huh.
It's their bourbon, which is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of Breckenridge bourbon. More than just because my son works at the distillery, because it's a great bourbon. And what they do is they finish it in a PX cask and a PX sherry. You know what PX sherry is? It's like Pedro Jimenez sherry, which is a Spanish sherry that's super like a dessert wine, super sweet. And so they finish it in those barrels or casks. And so it gives it just a very sweet but not overly sweet finish. Super smooth. Super solid. I love it. It's great.
So you've got
cool.
Steve on that really nice echelon. Then you got Drew at the very bottom of the barrel with King Snake.
Well, I mean, at least what did you bring last time? Wasn't it like Evan Williams or something like that?
Man,
Fireball.
moonshine.
Yes, moonshine. Okay, so So I made an impulse buy when I was at Red Carpet this last week. Drew and I live like really close to each other, and I had to get this. I thought it fit what we would be talking about today. It is a bourbon from Brown Distillery in Washington, and it simply is called Do Epic Shit Bourbon.
I like that.
That's great.
Had to get it with a name like that. Come on. Like, that's just incredible.
That's even better than Sexy Motor Oil
True.
for a
Yes.
name,
True.
you know?
Yeah. Do
Well, how
Epic
does it
Shit
taste?
Bourbon.
How does it taste?
We will see. I just opened
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So we all get to watch this.
Watch the
Happen.
facials and taste like.
It's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
It's okay.
The name. It's all
It's
about
about
the name.
doing epic shit, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right. Well,
Well,
we
who would
just
like to
got-
go next, Anne or April?
I can go next. So, as I told the guys before this, I'm coming off the flu, but good news, I'm a veteran wine drinker. So, I didn't bring anything overly fancy. This is one of my weekday wines, any day of the week it applies to, but it is an Argentinian Malbec called Espuela del Gacho, and it's a reserve option. I'm a go to red wine drinker at any opportunity. So, I figured if I tried to go with whiskey after not eating for 2 days, that would be a very dangerous place. I'll go to my comfort zone, which is red wine.
I love
Hey, much
it.
respect for the Malbec. The Argentina Malbec is a
A little
solid
spicy, kind
choice.
of like my personality. So,
Solid choice.
Okay.
You know that to be true. You've had to be with me for how many years now?
I don't know if I would call it spicy. If it was a little edgy, maybe, but
Okay. Well, whatever. We're splitting hairs.
Edgy and spicy are sort of the same, aren't they?
April would say no if you were doing a bearing characteristic exercise.
Jeez.
God.
This is
Here,
awesome.
now
I
you're
love where
getting
this
the
is going.
dynamic. Here we go. Steve's already experienced it once.
All right, so I
All
guess
right.
it's my turn. So I
Yes.
am Italian through and through. So my blood runs red and yellow. Red, well, I guess red, white, and yellow. So red for red wine, white for white wine, and yellow for limoncello. So
Hey.
I have my limoncello in my limoncello glass, which I got for my 50th birthday from my general manager
How
of
cool.
Tint World. So that's what I'm drinking tonight,
How
Well done.
cool.
Way to broaden
How
the
cool.
horizons for us.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I
Well,
love it.
cheers,
Okay,
shall
so yeah, let's
Yeah,
cheers.
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 Yeah,
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
There we
as
go.
we
My
My
start.
glass is enormous. Look at that.
Okay, so before we dive into Forthright People, tell us the short version. How did you two meet and then realize we have to do something together?
Well, April tells the story of how we met, and then I tell the story of how we have to do something together. So, April, you want to
Perfect.
start?
I can start. So I am the agency side of the duo. I won't go much further than that because I know we'll introduce ourselves further, but it is relatively important to the story because I was at agencies for 17 years, went out on my own, was with the idea of building a mini consultancy. So serving the clients that are underserved, that can't afford an agency. And I had lots of friends in the creative space that went freelance, but none of them were doing account management, strategy, and new business sales. So I built my bench, set out to do my own thing, and thought it would take me a couple of years. Well, about a year in, it was going really well, which was great. However, I felt bored because I'd gone from all this infrastructure of a team and lots of people I was learning from and all the energy. And while I had folks around me, I was giving the marching orders, which I'm really good at that, speaking of the spicy personality. But I felt like I wasn't growing and developing anymore. And so starting in January of that year, I put this ask out to the universe, that was 2019, of everybody in my network, introduce me to anyone that you think it would be important for me to meet. Because I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm
Nice.
looking for something new. And I think the way to get there is people, which is my focus in the business now
Oh,
and just the
very
thing that I
cool.
love, right? Meeting new people. And so we say through the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon or however many degrees you believe there are, that's how Anne and I came together. So someone that I adore and has been a former colleague but friend for almost 20 years introduced me to a woman who we thought would do work for me on behalf of my company at the time. And on the other side, Anne had met someone who introduced her to someone else who introduced her to this woman's husband. And the husband connected Anne to her. And so when Jenny called and said, I have this person you absolutely need to meet. Oh, by the way, she worked at Procter & Gamble for 20 years. I was like, hard pass. As an agency person, working on that business was tough. I did not like taking orders from those people, and I'm not going to the meeting. She was like, no, I know what your ask is, and you said any meeting. So she sent me to this coffee. I remember distinctly walking in and being like, this is going to be awesome. And then 3 hours later, Anne and I were still talking. And this is kind of where I let her
That's
pick up the
awesome.
story.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously coming in with my 20 years of P&G cred, but I had left P&G a couple years earlier to do my own thing. And so I was basically operating like a brand manager on loan, or now we call them fractional marketers, or, that's the new fancy term for basically being a consultant. And so I was doing that, but realizing that as in developing my strategies, I didn't have the infrastructure to deliver them according to the vision that I had. And we all know when something gets conceived, gets passed off to people who don't share in that vision, it kind of falls off. And so I was looking for a partner that was going to bring the other side of the business, or I was going to have to build it on my own. I specifically actually was looking for another woman, even though it didn't have to be, because I thought that would be really unique to have two like badass women marketer branders
Yeah.
kind of going after this, right? And so, like April said, Jenny's the one who kind of brought us together. And I went to the meeting kind of more optimistic than April was. I mean, she did literally walk in and she did give me a little bit of that death stare, like, I'm here, but I don't really want to be here, kind of
I
like.
really try to manage my face, but it has subtitles.
Doesn't
So I
work
can't.
at all.
RBF, man. I love it.
April's word,
Hey.
what, like last year, no, in 2024 was breezy, and I almost like had a conniption
was trying
fit from
something
laughing
new.
so hard. I mean, not breezy at all. And so we started talking, and I won her over pretty quickly. So when we talk about like, how do we know we had to work together? I knew like a half hour in that like me and April were destined for each other. This was going to be a partnership that had a
love it.
ton of potential. And she took her a little bit longer, obviously, but I won her over. And basically what we started to do from that point forward, we started having basic 3-hour meetings every week. And really where we started, we just started talking about what our values were, what our principles were, just to see if we were even compatible from a people standpoint first, before we even started talking about the business. But those 3-hour meetings always had wine. And so that's been now, 6 years later,
2019. Yep.
we still have 3-hour meetings at least a week over wine. And we discuss important personal things and important business things.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I love the line, April. I try to control my face, but it has subtitles. I'm gonna use that. It's so
It's so
good.
good.
You can search memes to that topic, and Anne and I will send them back and forth to each other because we share that same problem.
That's awesome.
That's so good.
So, Anne, you and I, we've talked a few times before, and I know you talked to me about your non-traditional career path. And so I want to go there a little bit and let you share about that and maybe some of the unexpected turns that the path took before on your way to becoming a founder. And then April would love to hear that from you as
Okay.
well.
I'll try to keep it on the shorter side and let you guys probe for any place you want to go deeper. First of all, graduated from University of Dayton, and I know there's flyers listening. There's flyers everywhere. April loves that.
Every time she sees one, anytime she's traveling, I get a picture. And I'm like, I really don't need this.
I'm rewatching West Wing.
So
Have you guys
good.
seen West Wing? You know Martin Sheen's from
No.
Dayton,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
He
yeah.
has Dayton Flyer mugs. He uses Dayton Flyer mugs throughout that show all the time. So every time he uses one, I take a picture and I send it to her just so she
What-
knows.
What do two Dayton Flyers say when they run into each other?
Go Flyers.
Do you have like a thing?
Yeah, we say
Okay,
go
that's
Flyers.
it. Just
Yeah.
go Flyers. Okay.
Go Flyers.
She just knows it annoys me at this point. So now it's just like overinflated.
She
Yeah.
wants to see the subtitles pop up. That's what she wants to see.
I get more than the subtitles, Drew. Believe you me.
Yeah, April.
So
She doesn't hide.
yeah, I went to the University of Dayton. I'm actually a mechanical engineer by background. So I studied mechanical engineering. And then when I graduated, I went to P&G and I started off in packaging and in a very upstream packaging at that. And what I quickly learned is like, I love the creativity of developing new packaging. I got to work on some extremely cool, like just breakthrough work. But I didn't get to make any decisions. And that was really hard for me to kind of be like the dog being their tail wagging, right? The dog is wagging the tail, which is me, right? If I'm getting that metaphor right. And I really drove me nuts. And because I'd be working on something and I think I'm making it move somewhere, and then all of a sudden direction change. I'm like, I don't even understand. So I progressively wanted to move closer to the business. So I went into products research across different brands. I won't get into all of those details, but I went to products research, which is understanding the consumer insights and how we develop products and even products to actually deliver on what the consumer's needs are. And then decided I wanted to even be closer. So I went to influencer marketing. Just a really kind of interesting gem, because I think this is really important for people to understand, is I was in male grooming products research, and the job was male grooming communications. I had no communications experience whatsoever. I had ancillary just association with it, but didn't really have any experience there. Was a very popular job that was being interviewed for. There was 13 candidates. So my chances of getting that job and no communications experience was very low. But when I met with my boss, he's like, well, why should I give you this role? I said, well, I know male grooming, like that's my thing. You'd have to teach me communications. He goes, well, I need communications, but I don't know anything about male grooming. It seems like our match made in heaven. Right. And so that's how I got the role. So I
That's
think
so
it's just
great.
really important to understand that sometimes we don't believe that our experiences or our knowledge holds value, but you just never know. And so you should just go for it. So that proceeded into 10 years of communications across many different platforms within P&G. But then after 20 years, I decided I wanted to build my own thing, because at heart, I'm a builder. And so I left P&G to build my own thing. And so those are the twists and turns. I was fortunate to be able to grow up in P&G, where I got to go through those twists and turns, and from a basic, like, just engineering into product research, into communications and branding and marketing. I mean, I got a whole just education, like upper level echelon education while I was there, that gave me all the experience I needed to really be able to be a uh, a founder with expertise and knowledge and understanding, and just come to it with that foundation.
That's really cool.
cool.
I mean, and what a great example of collaboration, right? Male grooming, communication, two very different things, put them together, something cool comes out of that, right?
Well, that's the sales. That's the sales thing. You find a thing that you can create
Yeah,
value on, and you sell it,
that's
right?
right. That's right. That's absolutely right. That's great. How about you, April?
Yeah, so I will say in caveat, and you just heard about Anne's 20 years at P&G. While I did not always like being their agency partner, I do have the utmost respect. And I do say that I also cut my teeth on their business, meaning I also got my education by working on Procter & Gamble business. So tons of kudos to them overall. But my background actually starts on the creative side. So I went to DAP at the University of Cincinnati here for graphic design. Realized about halfway through that I was really good at the ideas and I hated the execution. So when I had to sit behind a computer for 8 hours, I wanted to die. When I was generating ideas, I loved it. And I had this professor who read us the Riot Act one class when we weren't maybe doing the work we should have been doing. But he said, if you aren't eating, breathing, drinking design, you don't belong here. And I was like, thank you very much. I have now realized I am not meant to be a designer. But I realized that I could finish out my design degree and I love the industry. And then I immediately went and got my MBA also at the Lindner School at University of Cincinnati in an accelerated program, which I don't recommend because I took none of the core classes, finance, accounting, any of those things. And then I jumped right to graduate, which was ridiculous. But as part of that, I realized how much I really did embrace and love the creative field. And so coming out of that, I spent 17 years at various agencies. And the way that I managed my career and my twists and turns was I was a jumper. So I would stay at an agency as long as I was still learning, and I would work my ass off for those companies. I was young, I was hungry, I would put in all the hours. As soon as I felt like I wasn't learning anything new, I would decide what I needed to learn next, which I think is critical. Not what I eventually wanted to get to, but what skills was I
Wow.
running up against that I didn't have, and what agency would help me get that? And
That's
so I
awesome.
jumped 5 or 6 times in my career, got to a point where I was working for Interbrand Design Forum in Dayton. So either driving there or traveling all over the world, which is fun when you're going to London and Seattle and Orlando in the winter. Not so fun when it turns into Scranton and Norfolk, Virginia. You're working on hardware stores. And, so I was kind of at the point where there was some fatigue. And I got a random phone call from a recruiter I had worked with 6 years prior. And she said, hey, I've been tracking your career. It's been amazing to see you grow. For today, I'm calling for your personality. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she said, I have this boutique agency in Cincinnati, and they are very specific about who they will hire. And I think that they have this client. It was a B2B. They really needed brand, but they were far down the funnel and focusing on advertising. And she said, but more important than anything, they're really, really committed to preserving their culture. Do you want to talk to them? And so I worked at Curiosity Advertising for the last 5 years of my career here in Cincinnati. And when I went, I said, I will gladly help you do these non-sexy clients. I will take all the B2B. I love that space. I love the clients that you can teach and really want to learn, and they don't have a lot of ego and they want to understand. However, I want to build you a brand strategy practice because I'm tired, like Anne said when she went on her own, of creating these great ideas upstream on the front end to serve the customer client, whoever you're targeting. It's to advertising. And I'm like, where did that commercial come from? And so I helped them really save those couple of businesses. We built a brand practice. And at that point, I realized I could do it on my own if I could do it there. And so that's when I was confident enough to take the leap. And then I already said how I got to Anne from there. So there you go.
I love it. April, I think it's so fascinating the way you were making career defining decisions. Right? I know this isn't kind of where we were going with our conversation today, but for anybody that maybe is feeling stuck in their career, what would you say what was it that motivated you? What would you say to them as a way to start to filter through the feelings and the emotions and the maybe fear of making a change? And why did you make the changes that you made and the time that you did?
Yeah, so I do a lot of coaching in our business today. So this is where I focus a lot of our time. Anne asked me the other day, why does it feel like all of my clients are looking to make a change? So maybe this is a me problem.
I mean, it's the truth. I'm not wrong.
That's funny.
But when I think about my career, I have this really distinct memory of in grad school, and I was really young actually, I went with a lot of folks that had 10 or 15 years in a career, and I didn't really have any professional experience out of design. And I remember sitting there and being so overwhelmed when these professionals would come in and talk, but they're so far in, and I'm like, how do I get from here to there? And so I kind of happened into the situation the first time I did it of, okay, that idea of I'm not growing anymore and what do I need to learn next? And really freeing myself from the idea that it had to be the ultimate thing, because that is how my brain works in general, is where am I trying to go long term? And I just realized that was completely impractical for someone starting their career to try to envision where they were going to be 20 years from now. And so that's where I really leaned into what's the next thing. And that's what I tell people now, right? I think there's this misconception that if I take a leap, whether it's to another company or to be a founder, I think it's the same.
Yeah.
It's like I'm more comfortable with what I know than the devil I don't, right? And so what I say to people is, number one, you have to identify that you have the fear. We all have it. If people tell you they don't have fear when they're making a transition, they're lying to you. There's no ways. Oh, there's always fear. There's always emotion. So how do we make it more objective? And we break it down and look at things from what benefits does it bring me? What am I doing now? And how does that work? What's my list of prioritization? And it takes it out of that emotional space and really helps make the decision of, is this the next right move, right? Does not have to be my ultimate move.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Will it benefit me next?
Yeah.
And that's where we get to the space of, and sometimes it's even like a promotion within a company, right? I don't know if I want to lead people. How do I know if I want to lead people? Okay, let's break down. Do you like, where have you had the opportunity? What did you get out of it? And we go as granular as every single week, at the end of the week, reflect on 3 to 5 things that went really well and 3 to 5 things that didn't, and do that for 4 to 6 weeks. And then let's look at the themes. And again, it takes the emotion out of it. Am I really getting a lot out of what I'm doing currently? Would I get more out of doing something else? And then how do I build to that?
Well, and just to build on that too, because there's a high level of emotional readiness that's associated with all of that. And that's always the big question too, is like, how do you know you're emotionally ready for something like this? And I like I think it's a Buddhist saying, which is, how long will you hold a hot rock in your hand until it's so painful you let it go? And so there's always that element of how much pain am I in, and how much longer do I want to hold this hot rock? And is this what I want my life to look like going forward, right? So
yeah, that's so good.
Well,
That's
and I mean, just to quickly build on that too, it's, we're in a small community here in Cincinnati, Ohio, but the world keeps getting smaller and smaller. And on that emotional side too, I'm always like, are you going to burn a bridge? Like, we do the emotional barometer too. I'm like, I'm a fiery human being. I'm Italian. My last name is Martini. I knew when I was reaching here, we got to be careful, right? Exit gracefully before anything happens from that side.
Okay, so I'm loving this conversation because I'm wired this way in the sense of, I've always had a hard time when somebody's like, tell me your 10-year goal, tell me your 15-year goal. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to figure out how to make it to the end
I
of
don't even know what I'm gonna
today.
have for dinner tomorrow.
Sorry, Drew. I'm sorry,
Steve.
Drew. I'll stop asking.
By the way, Steve has never asked me what my 10-year goal is. Okay.
No.
So just as a caveat. But what I find to be interesting, so it was 2 years ago, I was working a part of Mutual of Omaha, and they did a massive reorganization restructure. Let me go as a part of like 150 other people. And as silly as it sounds, I was watching the movie The Meg 2, actually. And what's hilarious
Was
about that,
Snakes on a Plane not available?
they were all drunk on King Snake, okay? But they were down at the bottom of the ocean floor and they were stuck there. And what I know, it sounds so ridiculous. This is how my mind works, by the way. And they said, how are we going to get out of this? And Jason Statham, my man, looked at everybody and he said in the most dramatic way, he goes, I only know how to take the next right step. And when he said that, there was kind of like this surfacing moment of going, yes, that right there. I only know how to take the next right step. Like, not that I don't think envisioning is bad. I don't think goals are bad. I don't think any of that's bad. But there's sometimes when you're talking, like listening to you two, and I'm sitting here going, yes, like the next right step presents itself, right? Like we want these like structured out moments, these structured out years, and life just doesn't work that way. And listening to you guys share your story, it's so human, it's so raw, it's so real that I think so many people are going to just resonate with that fact of going, I only know how to take that next right step. So thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Well, Drew, too, you don't even know if it's the right step. It
Yeah,
just is
right.
the
It's
next,
just the next step.
logical step.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or it's like, well, I mean, me and April always say, just do the next thing. Just do something. And we always speak from the context of what must be true. And so that sometimes that sets up a nice little like progression of steps that get you to someplace, but not following that blindly, because you may wake up one day and find this isn't what I expected, right? And it's okay to change direction at that point in time. The right step, I think, kind of gets people like locked into the certain am I, and you don't necessarily need to be certain. You're allowed to test and learn your life. You're allowed to kind of give yourself
Yes.
some opportunity to kind of see, how does this feel? How does it fit? And do it in a way that limits the risk to some extent, but give yourself some time to experience it. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
And then you can always go back. You can always change. You can always shift.
I think that's so helpful because, I think when you think about the stories that we hear about businesses that had great success, you always hear about the origin story, like why did they launch it? And then you hear about the incredible exit that happened, right? The end of the story.
Yep.
What you guys are talking about are all the things that happen in that messy middle, which is absolutely true in every single business, right? And just the ability to take the next step, whatever that is, sometimes just drop the freaking rock, is the next step.
That's so good.
Get out of the
Right.
pain, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just, I just think it's so helpful because too many people who are founders, especially early stage founders, think they have to have all the right answers and have the 10-year plan, like you were saying, Drew, and that just isn't necessary. The stories come out of the founder stories that just did what you guys have been talking about, which is what's the next thing. So one of the things I'd love you guys to speak of, this is the first time that we've had two founders on the podcast. And so that is a unique kind of perspective. And so when you guys decided to do this together, what were the signs that you looked for that told you this is going to work? Like April, how did you know Anne was the right person to do this with? And how did you know April was the right person? And what would you tell somebody, maybe two people who are out there thinking about doing this in terms of like pitfalls, like things what do you look for? What do you avoid? Because having co-founders can be kind of messy, right?
Yeah. I mean, Anne started with this before, so I'll pick up that thread about the 3 hours that we spent together and how we started as people first.
Yeah.
Instead of the work we were going to do. I will be really honest. I was very skeptical because I had never seen a duo work out.
Yep.
And it was where I sit now, looking at the work we did really intentionally from the beginning and why those partnerships didn't work. It was because they didn't have a fundamental mutual respect for each other and they didn't have a shared value system.
Mm.
And so when we spent that 3 hours together, I mean, Anne will say that she had to court me and all the,
I
the funny
did.
ways we talk about it. But I mean, the truth of the matter is that was very true. And those 3 hour meetings in the beginning, they really had no other agenda other than, are we taking the next step? Are we going to continue these? Do we want to still meet with each other? It's helpful that we are both very direct, but very respectful. And so those traits lived in the way we would communicate with each other from the start. But we were just really honest and open with each other about everything big and small that was important to us, right? Like, I didn't want to lose my autonomy. Working for an agency for all those years, the last thing I wanted was someone looking over my shoulder again and asking what I was doing, right? And that meant specific things like I wasn't ready to open up my calendar in the beginning. I mean, these are things that were really, really important. And we talked on both sides about what those things were before we ever talked about what the work was going to look like. And I tell people all the time, right? That was 2019 when we met each other. The fact that we met in person every 3 weeks is what I believe got us through the pandemic, because we knew each other so well that we could make calls on the business, make hard calls. We started our podcast during the pandemic because we wanted to be able to stay connected and really be out there. And now, as we go in different directions, because the business has grown and we have different interests on what we want to do, we trust each other to make decisions. And people always ask us, how do you do what you do? How do you, write a book, have a podcast, run a business, work on all these clients? It's just the two of you. And we're like, because we don't have any debate about things. We trust each other. We come together when we need each other's advice. We go out, we do the work. We trust our integrity on both sides. We know what we think looks like good work and what is right. And we just keep moving. We don't have 3 hour debates on anything. It's not a debate. It's sitting together, going through all the clients, our personal updates, where we are, how we're feeling, what we're doing, and then we move on. So I think that really is how we learned from the beginning to know who we are as individuals. And we both say the most unexpected thing was the friendship that came.
Mm-hmm.
We knew pretty soon that we could be business partners. The fact that we're as tight as friends is the really unexpected part.
It's cool.
Yeah, 1,000% all of that. The thing that I'll add is that April and I have very complementary skill sets too. So the one thing that started from a business standpoint and we positioned is like we could do nuts and bolts, like end to end everything. We've seen it all. And tactically speaking, it was like April did a lot of the upstream stuff. I did a lot of the downstream delivery stuff, and we aligned on the middle stuff. But it was also the fact that we allowed each other to swim in our lanes, and we didn't get into each other's lanes or question what the other was doing. We would always ask for feedback just to have that to bounce off of. That's the benefit of a duo, is you have somebody to bounce things off of. But if I didn't respect April's opinion on those things, it wouldn't work. So if you're going to be a lone ranger working as a duo, that doesn't work. And that's usually why duos don't work. But the fact that I actually respected April's input, even on things I considered myself an expert on, it made it better, or at least let me critically think about if I was doing the right thing or not. But at the end of the day, she's like, it's your call. Your call, or that one's your client, or we didn't second guess each other. And so there's been, as April said, a huge mutual respect for each other's abilities, intelligence, experience, ability to represent the brand in every interaction we have. Now, do we always agree? No. And actually people get really uncomfortable with me and April kind of disagree because they're like, what is going on right now? They seem so mean, but we're just being transparent. We don't have time to try to make it sound all nice and pretty. And I mean, we know where it's coming from. It's coming from an aspect of trying to make the work better. And we welcome that feedback and that input. So that's, the complementary skill set, I think, is super important, but having a similar set of values, like April said, or certain perspectives or positioning that allows you to anchor, and then you can kind of spread your wings in a whole bunch of different ways, but mutual respect for each other's abilities and being able then to leverage that where it makes sense, but then allowing each other to kind of do your thing so you can divide and conquer.
Okay, that was amazing because for a lot of different reasons, but one of the things that as I was listening to you talk about, I was connecting the name of your business
Very good.
as you're describing all of this, right? Like, so I'm sitting here going, okay, marketing geniuses over here. They have done a phenomenal job of figuring all of this out. The values is what holds this all together, allows you, April, to be distinctly, uniquely you. And while still you being able to be distinctly, uniquely you, what holds all that together are the values in which you came together to kind of share, right? So thinking about the name of your business, Forthright People, fantastic, because you guys are living this out. And that's the statement in and of itself, right? So talk to me about, what does being forthright mean to you? And why did you guys, and I'm kind of figuring it out, like I'm listening to the undertones here, but why did you say, this is it? This is the flag. This is the hill in which we are going to sit here and die on.
Well, it's an interesting conversation, Drew, because we went through a naming process for ourselves just like we do for any other business. And so we really wanted it to represent the brand and the presence of the brand in that interaction with clients and customers that they could expect in working with us. So, I mean, we went through multiple iterations, but at the root of it, and it comes from a tension that a lot of small, medium-sized businesses face, which is a core part of our client group, is that they get these agencies or they get these consultants, and frankly, they get like a lot of stuff that's not very helpful, right? And it's couched in ways that isn't very clear, and it's always like the playing nice. I mean, that was always the agency corporate thing, is like the corporate had to be nice to the agency, and you had to like, any feedback you gave them, you had to give them in the sandwich, if you will, and make sure that they didn't like feel like you were criticizing them, and then you devalued them, and then they would go in their little hole and they didn't want to work for you anymore, kind of thing, right,
Yes,
Nicole?
yes.
I need to go to my safe place.
So, I mean, we just wanted to break all that apart and just recognize the fact that these small, medium-sized businesses, one, do not have a lot of money usually to invest in this sort of thing. They don't have a lot of time. They usually needed it yesterday. They don't usually have a lot of people that are focused on this work, whether it's business strategy, branding, or marketing, organizational development, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times, if they do have a person, it's not their core competency. Forthright People is all about being respectfully transparent. So we're going to give you what you need. We're not going to give you what you don't. And we're not going to spend a lot of time trying to make you feel good about decisions you've made if we didn't feel like those were the right decisions. But our whole goal, our whole pursuit is to help you achieve your business goals. And that's what it always comes down to, is like, how are we going to achieve your business goals? We're going to help you get there, but we're going to be respectfully transparent.
Well, and we use that for vetting criteria for clients as well. So when we go into conversations, which is another big part of the naming, right? From the very beginning, Ann and I are like, we're not working with assholes anymore. We both did that for too long in our career. We were like, it's just not worth it. We're building our own thing at this point, and that was a core decision for both of us. It was like hard pass on that. The minute we get in those rooms and we start seeing those behaviors, it's a no. And the second part of that was discussing the name. Just like you said, Drew, like I'm starting to pick up on, right? We very overtly will say we are named Forthright People for a reason. We are a people-centered business. We believe it's relationships at the core, and that's a relationship that goes both ways. So we will always be direct but respectful. However, we expect the same of you. You are the expert in your business. We are the experts at branding and marketing, and we must work together as such. And the minute that doesn't work anymore, that's when we have to have a really tough discussion with each other.
And if you want to ask if Anne and April have been fired from clients for being too transparent, the answer would be yes.
Yes.
We both have been fired from clients for that.
For being
And we
too
are not
transparent.
sorry about it.
No.
That is another podcast episode. Firing
Yeah.
stories.
We got them back
We
for
need
that
several
one.
of these first,
Yeah.
and then it'll be a great
Let's
episode.
go.
Let's
Come on,
go,
April.
baby. I love that, man. I wonder, this is me being completely overgeneralizing, but here's my experience, and this is with Italians, okay? Italians, I feel like there's a core value that a lot of Italians have for this being forthright and just working stuff out in a really honest way. I remember way back in my days selling real estate. I sold real estate. I sold a really nice home to this Italian couple. Their family came in to celebrate the closing, and they invited me to dinner. And so we went to dinner, and they had the biggest knockdown, drag out argument at dinner. And I was sitting there, and I come from a family that just buries all that stuff, right? Like, let's put that over there there in the corner. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to pretend
look
that
at
didn't
it.
happen. And they just like worked it out. And I was like, that is amazing. You know, I so respect that. And there's not enough of that, honestly. So
It's funny you say that because I am the oldest of 5 children. And we are all very type A and very strong personality. And actually, it is a joke. So 4 of us are married, that the in-laws know when they just need to take a step back and watch the show.
That's awesome.
I will say
so
I
good.
am in that same boat as Steve. No, you bury it deep, dark, just push it under. So I love that all of this is part of that because A, people know where you stand, right? And B, when you say something, you mean it. And people respect that, people understand that, and people can connect with that. You know, so I lived in Cincinnati from 2001 until 2009. That's where I began actually where my career actually launched there. Actually, absolutely loved living there, and listening to you guys' stories was great. So I want you to take me back to those early days, right? When you first launched, how were you acquiring clients? Where did you find them? Like, how did this all start to come together and start to kind of launch out for you?
I'll just start because a funny story just like resurrected itself in my brain and how we were trying to figure something out. We were pitching a client and
You were going to tell this one. It makes
I
me
know
so
the
mad.
client, me and April are both on the phone and the client said, oh, in PR, and April goes, we don't do PR. And I'm like, I spent 10 years at P&G doing PR, but okay. So I didn't say anything on the line, but then we got off the phone and I called April. I'm like, do you just not want to do PR or what? She goes, what do you mean? Oh my God, you did PR for like 10 years. I'm like, I'm not even used to like, consolidating all of our expertise into one package. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, I'm just checking. I thought maybe you just didn't want to go do it, but I'm fully capable of doing PR, right? So,
So bad.
that was kind of like some of the early days. So a lot of our clients came from relationships we had. I mean, that's where a lot of it comes initially for everybody is you
Yeah,
work your relationships, which is
that's
why
right.
I got, this saying from Jordan Harbinger, and I use it all the time. It's like, when you're thirsty, it's too late to build the well, right? So you always,
Wow.
always, always have to be building the
Yeah.
well, right? And so
Yeah.
that
Great
was
analogy.
April and I. Like, we just went to that well and we started pulling from that well. And because we were in COVID, it was a little tough.
Hmm.
Initially, people wanted to do branding and marketing, which was how we set up Forthright People to begin with. But then as COVID kind of stretched on, people were getting a little worried and started pulling their resources back and pulling their money back. We're sitting here like, now what do we do? Which is why we started the podcast to start building credibility and reputation. But I mean, we were relentless about going and trying to work those relationships, and eventually it worked. Now, some of them, I mean, our first client that we recording, it took 2 years to bring that client into a client. Some of them came a little quicker. Some of the work was a little bit more, not exactly what we wanted to do, but a way in. So sometimes you just figure out how do you get those early wins and those leads so you could start building a clientele and start building reputation credibility. Because initially, no matter where you come from, you have to start over to some extent. Like, I came from P&G, biggest brand building company in the world. Outside of P&G, they're like, yeah, and right? And so you're building a new reputation, a new level of credibility, and you spend a lot of time doing that, which was a big reason we mentioned it now 20 times probably that we started the podcast as a way to really establish that, and it still continues to be one of our number one marketing channels.
And interestingly, I'll just speak briefly to the point about reputation. I wanted to do what we're doing now when we started. And the pushback immediately was, how long have you guys been working together? You have a branding and marketing background. How does that equate to coaching? Do you have a certification? And it was humbling, but I think you've heard us say this a little bit too. Anne spoke to it before about testing and learning. And then having the conversation with each other, and this is a lot about what I talk to people that want to be founders, is you take the work for right now with an idea of what you want to do in the future. And you know that you're taking it right now for a reason, financial, to test something out. You got to make sure that you have a scorecard and you're not just taking it just because. But then you also have the vision to what are you looking for? So we started with some of these smaller folks. We did some more like startup stuff. We don't do very much of that anymore, right? Like the true startup, like we have not even a proven concept yet, right? We did some of that in the beginning. That 2-year client, was our biggest client after 2 years for 3 years, right? But it took a while to build that relationship. But along the way, we were not afraid to test and learn. But we also, back to those weekly conversations, had regular, same things we tell our clients, quarterly, and then a big annual discussion about let's look back, let's reassess. What are we doing now that we're doing for now? How much longer are we going to do that? Is there something distracting? Do we need to let that go? What are we going after next? How are we going to get that? And then just chipping away at things, it goes back to that, what's the next thing, right? Like, what can we do coming out of this meeting? And this is what we tell our clients right now. What can we do right now that's an easy thing to go and get to the next thing? The client, the business, the project, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really good. Let's stay in the sales theme for a little bit here. I know a lot of, we talk to founders who are still stuck in the sales process, right? We talk to them all the time. They're trying to get out. But one of the things I've noticed is the struggle that a lot of founders have at selling something that's more intangible, right?
Mhm.
So when you're selling something that's tangible, a consumer product or some other widget, it's a little easier. But a lot of times you move into a company now where you're building something, you're selling an intangible like you guys are. What advice would you give to people in terms of how do you get people, the prospect, to feel the value of that intangible before they buy? Because that's so important, right? We know that buyers typically make a purchase decision based on an emotional response, and then they're going to justify the emotional response with the logic, right? But the decision gets made emotionally most of the time. So talk to us about how you guys do that and what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, you answered the question. It's the emotional integrity, and emotional integrity is based on relationships. So either in the different, and they could be different levels of warm, as April said. She had to teach me the whole warm the door, and I didn't understand what that meant. But
This
now
is one
use it.
I will take a shot back, because she did the thing about the PR where she was like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What is
It is.
that mean?"
And
And
now
I
I
was like,
use it
"You
all the
warm
time.
the door, Ann. You warm the
I
door.
don't
You have to
understand
be
why
like,
the door would be cold to begin with. Why was a door warm and cold? Is the door
that
in like
doesn't make any
Alaska?
sense.
I'm like, does it need a heater? I'm
You didn't warm the
really
door and you slammed the door.
Doesn't need a heater. She did say that to me, and I was like, "What? You're the analogy queen. Just get it."
I do like a good analogy. That one is like on the lower of my list, but I do use it all the time now. Just for some reason it works. But that's really the whole concept, is like, it's the same element of really being able to understand the emotional value you're selling. And the emotional value comes from people knowing who you are and what kind of value you're going to provide. And that's really hard if they've never heard of you before. So that's where the relationship building is so super important. Never know who you're meeting. As me and April met each other through the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you just never know who you're meeting. You never know what they're looking for. So you always put out there what you're about and what you're doing and what you're looking for, because you never know who's listening and who has the ways in, or who knows somebody's like, oh yeah, somebody over here, my brother-in-law's sister's friend is looking for that kind of work. And I mean, we've gotten work through the most outlandish ways, and you just never know. But it's also about building that reputation and that credibility through trusted sites like LinkedIn, making sure your LinkedIn presence is solid, putting content out on LinkedIn. What is your perspective? What is your point of view? It's not just a curated site for you to like other people's stuff, right? It is a way for you to build your thought leadership. And so that's really important. That helps warm the door for people who are trying to see, hey, are you the right fit for me? So we know like people, just like products that you're shopping for, they need to see something 5 or 6 times before they're going to engage with it. It's the same thing with people. I mean, people are emotionally led by relationships with other people. And if you don't believe me, just like think about when you meet somebody, the first thing that you have an impression about is the way they look, how they're talking, just the overall air about them. And you walk around with like, I don't know if I like that person, but you have absolutely nothing about them, right?
Yeah.
So that is the same thing when you're selling the intangibles.
Yeah. Well, and I
Love
will
it.
say too, as the agency person, I'm really careful that we don't talk too much about ourselves in the beginning.
Yep.
So we do make sure that they have the credibility, like they know about us enough to engage in the conversation, and we're putting that stuff out there. But we very quickly turn to what keeps you up at night. What are your business objectives? We're not here to sell you our process. We don't have a one-size-fits-all process. We will tell you, to the forthright nature of us, what you need, but we need some information first. And in fact, we had someone that was like, I just need the RFP. And I was like, he's like, I have 3 other ones already. And I'm like, what did they RFP based on? You haven't told me anything. What their process is. I'm like, their process to do what? You have to have some conversations with us first so we know what the answers are. And that's building
right.
the relationship versus I can't tell you how many pitches where we went in and we just talked for 56 minutes. And then when they had 4 for questions and we would leave and everyone would be like, that was great. Oh, we killed it. I'm like, we have no idea who they are or how we did because we didn't ask anything and they didn't have time to ask us anything.
That's the whole shut up and
So
sell
good.
principle
Yeah.
right there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's-
I know that the going back full circle to the drop of the rock thing, I think another way to help people understand value is to help them understand what happens if they do nothing. Because honestly, doing nothing is often our biggest competitor, right? So if we don't ask the questions, it's hard for us to shape for them what it happens if you just keep doing what you're doing and expecting different results. And when we can articulate that because we've asked good questions, then it's helpful for them. It's easier for them to then drop the rock, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time. This flew
Dang.
by.
This was so
I
fun.
know.
Dang.
Crazy. I think, Steve, we might have to do a 2-parter with this one at some point.
Yeah.
Because
Kind of
Yeah.
it might be
If
our
you
first.
guys
It might
are
be
up
our
for it.
first one. Might
Yeah,
be our
let's do
first
it.
one. So 2 quick questions before we wrap. When you're not running your business or businesses, right? Where could we find you?
Like in general,
Yeah. What do you do? What do you do
Like for
when you're
fun?
not doing business stuff? What do you do for fun?
for fun.
Yeah.
Well, you go first.
So I'm an avid runner. I have been for 20-some years. Before Anne says anything, she did send me to a chiropractor who helped me cut down on my miles a few years ago. So that did happen. You've already
That's
heard
like an
how...
old lady at like 30, 8 years old.
See, I told you. You already heard that we love to drink wine. We both currently reside in Hyde Park in Cincinnati, so we are neighbors now, which allows us to spend
Nice.
lots of time together. And then I have 2 younger kids. So I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, 10-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl. So right now we are into sports full throttle. I never thought I would be a sports mom. My sister-in-law makes fun of me on the regular. I'm like, you just wait. Yours are littles. It's coming.
Yes, it is.
And travel, too. Right now we have
Love
kind
it.
of boring vacations, but all 4 of us have the travel bug. So
Love it.
that's where you find
Love
me.
it. Anne, how about
so
you?
when I'm not doing this day job, I have another day job where I own a Tent World car stylizing franchise, which is actually fun. I'm also a certified paint protection film installer, which I find very therapeutic and I actually enjoy. So it's like my little fancy information thing that always works well at parties. I also work out. I love walking, running, gym work. I'm 6 days a week. I'm doing something. It's the way that I continue to manage my mind, body, spirit, all of that. I'm also into a lot of spiritual stuff. Sadhguru is one of my big gurus that I really enjoy. I just finished the inner engineering program if anybody is into that. So those are my big things. But other than that, yeah, just I love being with people, with friends, and just kind of socially exploring and doing new things. My words for this year are live. So live is my big word, but then believe is my second word to that. So that's what I'm really focused on.
I love it. So how can people connect with you and learn more about Forthright People?
Yeah, so our emails are really easy, April or Anne at forthrightpeople.com, and we don't get offended if people confuse us. It happens all the time. 2 A's, we sound alike, we've heard, which we don't believe, but, so reach out to either one of us. And then LinkedIn is a really good way to connect with us. We also have our own podcast, Strategic Counsel. We have, I always forget, Anne, how many episodes do we have now?
Almost
We've been doing it for...
500.
Yeah, we're in our 6th year. We've launched one every Tuesday and a
Nice.
quick hit every Thursday for the past 2.5 years.
Holy
And we
cow.
will be launching a book on personal brand this quarter. So a passion area of ours, which I'll let Anne talk more about. She's good at the spiel about the book.
Yeah, and I think, April, I don't know if you said forthright-people.com.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Our emails are Anne and April.
Forthright-people. Same with our website, Forthright-people.
Yep.
Yep. Sorry. Good call.
Yeah, so we have a book launching. Target right now is March 1st. It's called The Power of Your Personal Brand, a playbook for struggling middle managers wanting to do big things. Me and April were both struggling middle managers, and almost every high-achieving, high-performing person is. And a lot of times we don't give enough credit for the fact that that's a really hard time and can really deflate and bring these managers down. So we're here to support them and show them how to leverage their personal brand to really achieve the presence that they need in order to achieve their big things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, as you know, we end every episode with a toast. King Snake, you're up.
Snake.
Steve thinks that you should toast every week now because you are the best Toastmaster.
Man, well, hopefully we can live up to it this week.
No
All
pressure.
right, so here's what we do. Everybody's glasses up. So there's 3 parts to this toast, and if you know my formal background, then that's important. So here's to the founders who, didn't follow a straight line, who zigged when everyone else zagged and built something instead of just copying. To Anne and to April, to you guys choosing the right clients over any client and growing without losing who you are in the process. And finally, to wine and limoncello and whiskey, because closing looks different for everyone, but integrity will never go out of style. So thank you guys for that. Cheers
Love
to
it.
you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Way to go, King Snake.
See? Now you know why he's the permanent Toastmaster.
Love it.
That was class.
Great.
That was so
Right?
good.
Yeah, he just freaking
That
does
was so
that. I
good.
don't know if he's got like an AI toast.
On the
Master thing
fly,
going on.
right? I have to
Create an
prep
AI
everything.
Toastmaster.
He
pulled
didn't
all
have
the
any
prep
dashes.
everything. He can
Yeah,
just
there
do
was
that
no
on the
dashes
fly.
in it,
No
so.
dashes.
So good. So good. Well, that is a wrap on another episode of Whiskey is for Closers. And April, seriously, thank you for being so open, so real, and for bringing the kind of honesty that makes this show what it should always be. Your story is proof that there's no one right path to building something meaningful, and staying forthright isn't just good branding, it's good business. So for everyone listening, if you want to connect with Anne or April and learn more about what they're building at Forthright People, head over to forthright-people.com. And if this episode hit home for you, if you are a founder still wondering how you're supposed to scale without cloning yourself, that's exactly why we started this podcast, and it's exactly why Alteza exists. If this was helpful, return the favor, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and tell us what you're drinking while you're listening, unless you're listening in your car. Until next time, unleash your inner closer and do epic shit. Cheers.
That's